seated. Please. So, good afternoon, everybody, once more. Now it's really afternoon, and it's really my great pleasure to welcome to a discussion on cyber skills. So, the title is Bridging the Global Digital Divide, Building Cyber Capacity and Digital Skills for a Secure Future. And you will have noticed that this time there is no mentioning of AI in the headline. But to compensate this, I did go online to use AI, and I asked for another joke on AI. And so the joke was, why did a country bring a ladder to a cybersecurity conference? Because they heard they needed to build cyber capacity and thought they'd start with the infrastructure. Now, in this panel, we're not discussing infrastructure, but we are actually discussing the more important thing, that is the people, their skills, but of course, adaptability and the related issues. We will have a rich menu of topics to address, and I will quickly go through them. And while doing that, I will throw to the air a few questions which the panel is then welcome to address in their introductory remarks. First issue, for instance, integrating cybersecurity education. How can governments and educational institutions effectively incorporate cybersecurity and AI training into school and university curriculums to ensure a future-proof workforce? Issue number two, addressing regional gaps. What are the key challenges and barriers to building robust cyber capacity across different regions? How can collaborative efforts between public, private, and academic sectors address those disparities? Issue number three, the role of AI in cyber training. In what ways can AI enhance existing training programs and certifications for professionals? Issue number four, upskilling and reskilling in the workforce. With the rapid evolution in digital technologies, how can we effectively upskill and reskill the current workforce to meet emerging needs? What financial and resource investments are necessary to scale these efforts? So these are just four issues we could tackle. And of course, we could spend a good few hours on issues here. But I'm really privileged here to introduce you to the distinguished panel. And we have four panelists, and I will start from the far right, from my perspective. Dr. Kristina Kallas is the Estonian Minister of Education and Research since April last year. And she's also head of the political party Eesti 200, or Estonia 200. Kristina Kallas also, before the politics, she had a career related to the University of Tartu as a researcher, but also as director of the Narva College. And she has been an expert consultant in a number of countries advising their governments. Then we have Minister Margarida Balseiro Lopes, the Minister of Youth and Modernization of Portugal.
And equality.
Sorry?
And equality.
And equality. Mm-hmm. She holds a master's degree in law and management and a postgraduate qualification in taxation. And she has also had a career in the private sector as well as being a member of the Portuguese Parliament. And she has served as vice president of the Social Democratic Party since 2022. And then immediately to my right here is Ms. Christiane Kirketerp de Viron, the acting director for Digital Society, Trust and Cybersecurity at the European Commission's Directorate General for Communications, Networks, Content and Technology, or DG Connect for short, since July 2024. Well, this directorate, the acronym is well known to many of us in the cybersecurity community. It spans a wide range of areas related to cybersecurity, digital health, and digital identity. And Christiane is a political scientist from the University of Copenhagen and joined the Commission in 2006. And last but not least, Matthew Blakemore is an AI strategist, CEO of AI Carramba. I love the name. He has supported blue-chip clients with AI strategy and digital transformation with over 15 years in tech and a decade in AI. And if I just take out one achievement of his from his career, he has earned over 20 plus IMDb awards for his AI-generated films, including Best Futurist Filmmaker at Cannes and Best AI Film Director in New York. Impressive. So thank you very much for joining us, and let's go straight to the discussion. Well, Minister Kallas, at the start of the season, or the school here in Estonia, I recall one of your interviews where you said that starting this year, Estonia would launch dedicated training program for teachers for AI. For an innocent reader like me, this translates into Estonian schools no longer just coping with AI, but actually integrating it, embracing it. And I'm intrigued. Could you tell us more about it? How is it going so far?
Yes, thank you for this question, because it's often misunderstood in a way that integrating AI into education means that teachers will start coping with finding out whether there is plagiarism used and how the students are using AI for studying. But what I very sincerely believe, and we also know from the researchers, that AI is here to put us into very severe evolutionary challenge as humans. And this evolutionary challenge is in a way that whether we evolve into the human beings who are capable of performing in a much higher cognitive level skills than we are currently used to, or we continue performing on the same level of cognitive skills as we have been doing for the maybe last 200 years, if we continue doing it on the same cognitive level, meaning that mostly in school and in education, we train memorization, we train repetition, we train memorization, repetition, stereotypes. We use stereotypes for figuring out certain things, and we apply those stereotypes regularly, even in new situations. So this is something that the education has been doing so far. And AI is here to tell us that there's no longer needed for these skills, because we can do it. We can memorize, we can repeat, we can use stereotypes constantly in solving the certain situations. And for humans, the question is whether we will be replaced by those AIs doing this, or we evolve into much higher capacities of doing higher cognitive skills. And higher cognitive skills are, not stereotyping, but having the skills in completely new settings, applying in a completely new set of skills, automatically reorganizing yourself. For that, your brain has to operate in a different skills level. And this is something that is a huge challenge for education system. Huge challenge, because what we do in education so far, we memorize, we learn memorization. That's how we develop skills. And I believe that in order for education system to evolve into this, developing those higher cognitive skills that we need, we don't need to teach students to use AI. We need to teach teachers how to use AI to develop those higher cognitive skills. So the teachers' competencies, pedagogical and psychological competencies and didactical competencies are the key here. So the training courses that we are introducing to the teachers in Estonia are exactly the pedagogical, psychological competencies of how to develop higher cognitive skills, analytical skills, critical thinking skills, meta-level thinking skills, abstract analysis skills, and how the AI is putting a challenge into those skills in human beings. So we are designing the courses right now with the help of the psychologists, neuroscientists, and technologists, and then hope to start training the teachers on that soon, so that they would really use AI in school system, education system.
You mentioned critical thinking, and it has been a recurring theme throughout the Tallinn Digital Summer. Minister Balseiro Lopes, well, here in the Estonian cyber defense community, we have sometimes been very self-critical, because we have noticed years ago Portugal has been very active in cybersecurity issues at both NATO and the European Union. But there is probably less we know about your national efforts, which is why I'm especially glad to welcome you here at the TDS, because you just launched your new national digital strategy. Please tell us a bit about it. What steps is Portugal taking to ensure digital inclusion and cybersecurity for its citizens?
First of all, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. We will present our national digital strategy this year in 3 weeks. But to do that, we have to know our goal, our purpose with this strategy. And for us, for Portugal, is to build a society where everyone has access and has the power to be part of the digital world and can take and get the benefits from the digital world. So this is our purpose, to have this strategy, to create, to develop this strategy. We study the strategies from other countries. We analyze hundreds of reports of national programs that we have already implemented in Portugal. We had a lot of events with experts, meetings, and we define 4 dimensions: people, state, public administration, businesses, and infrastructure. The first one, people, is the most important one, because technology should serve people and not the other way around. So we want to do a lot of initiatives. Let me give you 3 examples. First of all, we want to ensure that at least 80% of our population, of our people, has the skills, the basic and above basic digital skills by 2030. Right now, we only have 56%, so we have a long way to go. But this is our first goal in people. The second one is gender equality. This is why I mentioned I've got youth, modernization, and equality. So in Portugal, we only have 1 in 5 specialists in ICT, 1 in 3 in STEM, and we are not building an inclusive digital world if we are leaving behind 12% of the, for example, EU population. So yes, we have to invest, we have to get more girls in courses in these fields, and this is not enough. We need to bring them to the labor markets. And the third goal in the first empowering people is to retain, attract people in Portugal. We need with high qualifications, not only the Portuguese, but we need to do that because it's crucial for our country. And the second purpose is businesses, and obviously SMEs are a crucial part of this second dimension. The third one is the state, and here our purpose is to have an efficient way to connect and to communicate with citizens and with companies. And the final one is infrastructures. And here I would like to give an example of an Iberian project. Portugal and Spain are working together to have an Iberian AI factory, and this is, I believe, a good example. It's important to increase our infrastructure, and we can do it together with other countries, with other European countries. And the final message I would like to highlight is collaboration. We need to collaborate more, because our strategy will have a lot of initiatives, and it's not only state or public administration. We are involving also companies, the private sector, public sector, academia, associations. This is very important. And one of the best examples that we have to share, and this is the final message regarding AI, is our Portuguese large language model that our Prime Minister announced last week in Web Summit. And we will present the first version in the beginning of 2025. And this will be the result of a close work with the public-private sectors, academia, and also associations.
Now, we have just covered the 2 frontier countries of Europe. So Director Kirketerp de Viron, it's a pleasure to welcome you here in Tallinn, right from the heart of Europe, in Brussels. Well, as mentioned, your directorate has a very long name, and I'm sure it covers a very broad range of issues. I can perhaps name NIS2 or the Cyber Resilience Act, but also connectivity and also cyber skills. Well, to the innocent reader here, this sounds like a lot of challenges, or not? Can you please elaborate on the European view?
Sure. So indeed, and I think actually cyber skills, which is also part of the work we're doing, is in a way what is enacting many of the other things we do. It's what we need in order to deliver NIS2, Cyber Resilience Act, and so on. Now, of course, around cyber skills, it's a challenging field. And I would say the biggest challenge we have is that it's a threat highlighted by NISA. It's one of the biggest threats to cybersecurity in Europe is the fact that we don't have enough skilled people. But it's a kind of threat that is sneaking up on us. It's not going to be a big bang and we see something bad happen because we didn't have enough skills. It's coming, but we will see the signs because it will be about the protection of our critical infrastructure. Do we have enough skilled people? Do we have enough software developers who actually think about cybersecurity when they develop the software that we run inside our businesses and critical infrastructure? And very importantly, and I think that also speaks to what we have discussed now, is are we sure that all the people in Europe, our children, our grandparents, our neighbors, and our colleagues, do they really have the necessary cyber skills, considering that cybercrime is now the third biggest economy in the world? So there are just a lot of challenges around this, of course, related to the fact that it's sneaking up on us, and we really need to do a lot, and it's a serious problem that we need to take, it's a problem we need to take very seriously. Then, of course, when we decide, let's do something about it, right? What is the next issue? Well, there is a lot of things in what I would group as skills intelligence, which is what we're missing. So we struggle to have the numbers, right? So we've done, of course, assessments, and we know that we say, we estimate a gap between 250,000 up to 500,000, but it's very fluid, as you can see. So I think, first of all, we have an issue in terms of understanding the data and the needs. Secondly, we also need to have much more of a discussion, and I very much like what you mentioned, Minister Kallas, as well, in terms about understanding what are the needs for the future. Because we have to be able to look around the corner and see where is it developing, and then we need to be able to react very quickly. So I think there's also something around the foresight which is posing a challenge to us. Then there is an issue in Europe that when it comes to skills, we're actually talking 27 different languages. So if you look across Europe, you know, someone who's working on cybersecurity law, for instance, is that a cybersecurity specialist or is it not? There are many, many questions around how do we define the different roles in cybersecurity, which we still have not really come to terms with. And that's, of course, also then affecting how are we, you know, how fluid is our European labor market around this. So this is also something we need to talk about. And then I really want to reiterate what you mentioned, Minister Balseiro Lopes, which is, of course, the issue of women in cyber, which I think we did a survey recently with lots of European companies, and of this we found out that 56% of companies do not have a single woman on the payroll on cyber. ENISA has numbers that also, I think, mirror those you mentioned from Portugal, that only 20% of graduates, or cybersecurity graduates, are women. So it is a question of simply, the one part is about building inclusive digital society, but the other thing is also simply about tapping into a talent pool. So, you know, we need to double the size of this talent pool, and that's one of the reasons why we need to have a much bigger discussion about women in digital, women in STEM, and women in cybersecurity if we want to close this skills gap we have.
Indeed. Yesterday it was mentioned, I think it was in the intervention by the Director General of ENISA, that actually skills gap in Europe can be perceived as the second biggest cyber threat. So it's not just the bad guys, it's often ourselves who are, the good guys, we're not as capable as we ideally would be. Now, coming to Matthew, you've had now a chance to listen to the three perspectives, and based on what we've heard, how do these national and European approaches translate into, if I may call it, the global, the innovation industry perspective? Do you see any real-life barriers to those initiatives from your perspective?
I mean, I think obviously all of the initiatives that have been mentioned here today are very valuable, but I do feel like there is certainly a lot more work for us to do in Europe. You know, one of the big challenges we have is, especially in the field that I'm in, artificial intelligence, you know, Europe has really led the way on much of the responsible AI initiatives. So obviously we have the AI Act, for example, in Europe, and many other countries are still kind of struggling to get to grips with what it means to be responsible with AI, and they're still debating it. But I guess one of the significant challenges we have as a continent is, especially with Trump and Musk kind of coming in with a deregulation initiative in the US, is a big cybersecurity risk for us. Sorry if there's anyone from the US in here, but is that we're relying quite heavily as a continent on US big tech. And we need sovereign AI. We need more artificial intelligence. It's great that you have an LLM coming into Portugal, but we need more investment into technology that's actually created in Europe as a continent. And I think that is a really important message to get across. There are currently, obviously, discussions in the European Parliament. Von der Leyen and Macron have set out that they want to deregulate a bit for startups to give them the opportunity to innovate in Europe. And I think that is so important and vital as we move forward. The other thing which I think is important to note is that when we think about education, obviously, it's really important to upskill the teachers, to educate the children, and at universities a lot better. But we also need to start thinking about education in a completely different way. Because the World Economic Forum, for example, highlighted earlier this year that they think 54% of employees are going to need upskilling. I think it's probably much higher than that. And the way that they're upskilled needs to be thought about in a completely different way to how we've upskilled in the past. And what I mean by that is the pace of change in this sector is so fast. If you upskill someone with a once-a-year workshop, it is not going to be helpful for your company, and it's not going to be helpful for Europe. We need to have continuous learning initiatives to enable adults as well to upskill more easily. We can't just continue to have these barriers of, oh, you have to go to university to study a master's, you have to go here to do this, and the financial barriers and implications of doing that. We need more continuous learning initiatives from governments to really support Europe in taking the lead in this AI space.
Earlier today, we had a panel on future-proofing technology. Let's now discuss a bit about future-proofing our people. For instance, in Estonia, we have for many years invested into having cybersecurity as part of the high school curricula. We have thus prepared our students for an evolving digital landscape, including AI. However, Minister Kallas, if I may provoke you a bit, so yesterday we heard from a fellow minister of yours from the Estonian government that, in fact, Estonia needs 18,000 IT experts, and therefore we need to readjust our education. So it was a bit provoking yesterday. How would you comment on that? And what might be the missing skills in our workforce? And what can really be done about it?
Well, if you make all our students to study IT, we will still miss some IT experts. So we are just extremely tiny country, which means that we need experts in every single field that you name. We need actually simple electricians as well. I think around 8,000 that we are missing on the labor market. So I think this is a message to rather the Minister of the Interior that we need a different immigration policy. But in education, we have been upscaling and enlarging the IT sector in education over the last 20 years. It's been relatively successful for Estonia because our IT sector and startup sector is the most innovative and added value-based economic sector that we have in the country. So it's a very innovative part of the economy. We have rather problems with the skills in, for example, in production industry sector, which is less innovative, where we need to invest more. But what I would like to talk, when Matthew mentioned regarding upskilling, I mean, this is a challenge for education systems globally, because as I said in my introduction, the system of education that has been preparing people for a specific set of skills skills for the lifetime is really an education system that no longer serves anybody, because there is no lifetime set of skills, fixed set of skills for the lifetime. What you need from education now is what we call 21st century skills, which are mostly very high-level cognitive skills and including learning skills. You need a skill to learn. So learning is a constant process of doing in current life, and the learning skills are something that the kids need to acquire at approximately age 12 already, so that they would be able to do self-guiding learning as well. Together, for example, with the help of AI, in dialogue with an AI, they do learning. But the biggest challenge, I always try to stress it, is not about children and or providing, I don't know, iPads to schools and then thinking that that's how it works. It's the teachers, because the teachers themselves need to learn learning skills. They are the generation like me who came from the system that prepared them with a set of skills for the lifetime. Once you learn to be a teacher, that means that you are now done and you can continue teaching rest of your life. So I feel that the biggest challenge of education systems, and from the perspective of the governments, is to train the teachers and focus on the teacher training, because once you have a teacher in the classroom who has a learning skills, who has those critical thinking skills, analytical thinking skills, because the teacher is the one designing the learning process in the class, then you can trust the teacher that they are integrating AI, they're integrating technology, they're integrating other things into the classroom. If you don't train the teachers and you only prescribe certain processes, that's not going to work, because the teacher skills are the critical here. So if we want to have IT specialists more, we need to train teachers more on using IT skills in the classroom. So their skills need to be developed much more.
Well, this I really can relate to what you said. So I'm actually a historian, but they call me a cybersecurity expert, and so I'm bridging gaps in my early 2000s education on a daily basis. But jokes aside, yesterday at the OECD session here at TDS, PPP, or public-private partnership, was mentioned as essential for bridging the skills gap. Minister Balseiro Lopes, could you tell us a bit more on how Portugal is addressing the need for digital literacy across the different population groups? And how are you tackling the gender disparity in digital and STEM fields?
Yes. First of all, always remember, we want a society where technology is not a tool for a few, but an opportunity for all. This is why we should take care, especially care, of the most vulnerable groups. So let me talk about children and older people. Children, because, I had a speech in Web Summit last week, and one statement was, our children, they swipe before they think. This is why they use technology. So our role is to teach them how to use technology, how to be safe online. One priority is to take care of our children, and in the digital world is to teach them how to use technology. The second example is about old generations, because they used to write letters, to use stamps, to use envelopes, and right now they have to send emails. Even the access to public services requires the knowledge of technology. And this is not fair, because we have to ensure that people have access to public services, even these services are only available online. This is why Portugal has a network of more than 900 of citizen spaces where old people can go, have access to digital services, because they have someone there that receive training to be there to ensure that that person, that old person, our parents, our grandparents have access to public services, and maybe next time they don't need to go there, because this person also received training to teach them how to have access in the future.
Director Kirketerp Viron. So over the past 1.5 days, we've learned lots about several European Union and well, broadly European initiatives in the area of cybersecurity, border control, digitalization, etc. But now we speak of skills, and these are at the same time at the competence of the member states. So what's your secret? How do you get the member states on board to those initiatives you mentioned?
Yeah, so of course it's true that skills and also education is something that's dealt with by the member state, but I still think, and it also goes to show in the discussion we're having now, is that there is an important European dimension in this. First of all, simply in terms of sharing best practices, learning from each other, there's already a strong added value. As I mentioned before, the fact that we're speaking 27 different languages when it comes to talking about cybersecurity skills is an issue. And here you mentioned, of course, ENISA as well before, and I think here the work that ENISA is doing to actually put together this European cybersecurity skills framework, which will help all of us understand skills in the same way, is very important in this regard. Now, more specifically, and I think that's also reflecting the fact that the national and the important national role on the skills agenda, we are, for instance, launching a European Digital Infrastructure Consortium, which brings together member states that actually want to work together on a specific topic. And we have one on cybersecurity skills specifically, which we're hoping will take off now, and which will really give a platform for member states to work together, to pool resources, but also to draw down European resources to develop more initiatives in this field. And it's something that I'm looking this direction, that we certainly also hope very much that many member states will join, because it can really be an important and powerful initiative in this field, specifically on cybersecurity.
Now, Matthew, I heard that your AI course on the Mindstone platform has upskilled 70,000 plus people. Well, that's a staggering figure, and congratulations, of course. In your view, as an AI expert, what ways can AI enhance existing training programs and certifications for the cybersecurity professionals or professionals at large? And what potential does AI hold for personalized learning and skill development in this field?
That's a big question to answer in 4 minutes, but I will do my best. So, I mean, I think the key here is that, as you've all touched on, really, the way that we've traditionally been taught needs to shift, because people need to learn to be more adaptable, they need to be more flexible, and they need to realize there's not kind of a finite moment where they've learned everything they need to for a career and that's it. And one of the things that we've done with Mindstone is actually been able to work with blue chip companies to help upskill their staff. But the one fundamental issue that I have so far with what's happening in the UK and Europe at large as well is that companies in the know are upskilling their staff. But companies that are not in the know realize they need to get involved in AI, are getting involved in AI, are switching people from different departments, maybe a software development department to an AI development department, but they're not providing the necessary upskilling. And what that fundamentally means is that you have people working on AI projects that don't understand what responsible AI means, that don't understand how AI governance works. And so that introduces cybersecurity risks as well around data privacy and all these other issues as well. PwC recently conducted some research and found only 11% of businesses that are working on AI are being responsible. That is shocking, because being responsible should not be a choice. That should be regulated. You need to be responsible when you're working on an AI project. Otherwise, we've seen in the past, Cambridge Analytica and other terrible examples of when people have not been responsible with AI development. And I think that is the crucial thing to understand. There are real consequences when people are not upskilled in this area. So how can governments and the European Commission and others reach out to businesses that currently don't realize their staff need this upskilling?
Great, thank you very much. And we actually do now have an opportunity for a question from the audience. Do we have any brave colleagues in the audience? No, it doesn't seem to be the case. But I will then provoke you all with you as leaders. Well, in the past, now it's almost 2 years, I think, that ChatGPT came out. And when it came out, obviously the first question was, is it okay to use it? Is it, use it for your private and personal purposes, but also, let's say, in the office? So from your own perspective, we're now 2 years living with the ChatGPT, and it's taken over the world by storm. Would you, as leaders, see it okay for your staffs to use ChatGPT for professional reasons as well?
Oh, absolutely. I use it. If I need to do the speeches, presentations, it's a very smart machine to help you to focus your topic, for example. Absolutely. There is a lot of citizen letters that need to be responded, and I think AI is very smart to responding to all citizen letters that come to the ministry, so which we can cut really the costs, and they are regular, those letters. But I wanted to actually give an advice on a Portuguese colleague of mine regarding elderly using digital services, digital public services. We have a very good experience in Estonia. We introduced our first public digital service in 2000, that's almost 25 years ago now, which was tax declarations. All Estonians in audience know tax declarations online automatically. So
in Portugal too.
In order to get people to submit their tax declarations online rather than going into offices and clogging the offices and lots of hours, the government was very smart, saying that if you submit your tax declaration online, you get your tax returns immediately, maybe in 6 weeks. If you submit it on paper, you have to wait at least half a year. So what do you think? My parents called me and said, listen, you need to come over because I need to learn how to submit my taxes online. So there are always incentives that you can include. And after the first year, in the second year, we almost had 80–90% people submitting their taxes online. They learned very quickly how to use the digital services because there were very clear personal incentives to go online. And I think we are one of the few rare countries where the trust of the tax board by the citizens is close to 90%. 90% of the citizens trust tax board because it's so transparent, it's so fast, it's so efficient, and your money is back on your account exactly when it's promised because it works on a digital system.
I guess the key thought to take away is that companies that do not provide access to LLMs for their staff put themselves at significant risk from what's termed as shadow AI. And shadow AI is where you don't have a secure way for your staff to access an LLM. And so, without telling you, they have their own private account on OpenAI's ChatGPT or Claude or whichever service. And then they put your proprietary data into that to write letters or to write speeches or to write everything else. And the problem is, with personal accounts on ChatGPT, they can use that data to then train the ChatGPT in the future. And so your proprietary data is ending up actually in ChatGPT. And the recent statistics showed that of companies that have not implemented a secure way for their staff to have access to these models, 74% of staff are using their own private accounts. And that is a big problem.
Sounds like a problem to me.
Yeah.
With that, we're unfortunately out of time. Please join me in thanking our distinguished panel. Thank you so much for these insights. Thank you.